Alrighty, guys. Good evening. I'm late here, guys. It'll happen. Lots of shit going on today. Mm-hmm. Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, excuse me while I stuff my face. Found out that my CPU continues its decline into oblivion. Yeah. So apparently I can't boot Windows anymore without a positive offset to my CPU, and then it will lock up on idle if I have C states enabled. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Anyways, yeah, so my CPU is highly unstable right now. I was trying to get core. Normally, I use OCCT, which is very good at figuring out Ryzen CPUs if they're having issues because it'll like test each one individually. And I tried to use Core Cycler, which is what all the kids are using, and I can't. And I spent 4 hours trying to get this fucking thing to work earlier tonight, and I can't fucking figure it out. No idea what the fuck's going on here. I reinstalled PowerShell. I've installed different versions of PowerShell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't actually know what the fuck's going on here. I have like 5 million tabs. I have even more open. Just trying to fucking figure this out. Just creating my primary window. And apparently PowerShell, like, can I get a standalone? I can't use 7. I installed PowerShell 7. Windows ARM, is there actually 64 here? Here's x6. Maybe I can actually just find the standalone, because it looks like my internal Windows version of PowerShell is broken. Let's go V5. I think is what I need. Whatever the last V5 is. It won't let me use, oh, that didn't work. Doesn't work. That's what I installed. Windows 7. PowerShell 7. I don't want PowerShell 7. It's not compatible with PowerShell 7. My internal version of PowerShell is borked, and I don't know how to fix it. I've tried. Oh, geez, guys. PowerShell module. So something might have got corrupted while I was extracting. Nope. Module could not be loaded. Nope. Something for me. It works fine on my laptop, so it's definitely something's broken in my version of Windows. Written 2022. That execution. Sometimes these are just copy pasted from other articles, so even if it's newer, it doesn't matter. Like, I running the script as an administrator should override this. Windows PowerShell updated your execution policy successfully, but the setting is overridden by a policy defined by a more specific scope. Due to the override, your shell will retain its current effective execution policy restricted. Fixed it. Hmm? My coffee, guys. 1 second. Resolved by using another computer for download. Jesus Christ, guys. Hey, sup, bro? How's your evening going, dude? I am fixing my exploded computer. I just need it to last another month until I can actually get... RMA it. I might have to RMA it prior to that, depending on how shit it is. Feels like it is slowly working on exploding here. Old error I was getting prior. I updated Windows and now it gives me the new errors. Um, Hey, Slane. You're doing troubleshooting stream. One of the 5 million versions of .NET that I've had to install over the years. Or the games have installed for me. Is that actually installed? What? Okay. Sometimes weird shit happens, like on Steam when they make a game private or something, and then it's still installed, but you don't realize it. Alright. What do you think is going to happen now? Nothing different. Oh, didn't change anything. What? The built-in one. I want a standalone install like V7. Something in here is broken, though. It said it was broken and it needs to have V5, but my V5 version is fucking broken, guys, so. Oh, okay. That would explain. We found the error already, so. No, don't terminate the script. Welcome back, Bendy. You guys get to watch the not PowerShell. You guys get to watch the troubleshooting stream as my computer descends into chaos. Aww. For it. Alright, what do we got? It appears as though this is not compatible with PowerShell v7, so weird. It's almost like it told me that. Sometimes you can run programs in a partially broken state and they'll still work fine. Christ. Like my version of PowerShell is broken. I have no idea how to fix it. Internet doesn't even seem to know how to fix it. The only working way I've seen of fixing this is you reinstall. Basically, you do a repair installation of Windows, and I'm not fucking doing a repair installation of Windows to fix PowerShell. Fucking, like, I hate open source software so much, guys. Like, you'll find out that between different versions of the software, like, this can't run in a version of PowerShell that's newer because it's missing stuff that the older versions had. Who the fuck does that? When you make a new piece of software, you just, like, instantly just move to a new version, and then it just makes all the versions, like, there is no backwards compatibility in any way, shape, or form. Something we've expected from things for, like, the last 2 decades is just not fucking there. Oh, by the way, you need to run version 5. Oh, okay, I guess I gotta run an older version to make this work. It's intentionally convoluted and broken. Thank you. People making V7 are like, yeah, no, let's not, no. You don't want to be compatible with older software because people would use that older software. They should update to the newer version of the software and make their software compatible with their open project. Fuck you, dude. Like, literally take a fucking dildo up your asshole and like it. I fucking hate open software so much. It's someone's fucking idealistic, like, weekend job. I understand that oftentimes it's very helpful. I use OBS for streaming, for instance. However, there's a lot of cases where people depend on it, and it's fucking shit. It's shite. You're just dealing with someone's fucking ego somewhere and wasting a shitload of your time doing so. I abhor it. The X64 version, isn't it? X86 version. Right click it and run as PowerShell. That doesn't work when you want a very specific version of PowerShell. I want the X64 version of PowerShell. Oh. Root. What? Explain to you like I'm 4. My computer has problems. My CPU is exploding right now. I'm trying to run a program that tests stability, and it's not working. I'm trying to fix the program. I'm trying to fix the program that's supposed to troubleshoot my PC and make sure it's stable. I'm trying to fix the program that checks to see if my PC is stable. The virus is not. Core Cycler has been around for a long time. But I guess I can check on my laptop to see what version it is here. Fucking works. You start it on my laptop, it just works. I believe it's X64. They actually give you ways of quitting the program, which is kind of there. See it. Why do you have to make things so difficult, Bendy? Why do you have to make this so difficult? Just literally just, hey, look, do the Windows feature. It is. Oh my fucking god. There's like a built-in version of PowerShell in Windows unrelated to the feature. Which is why I had the feature off, because it's still fucking there. I found that out. What Windows uses, it doesn't give a shit about this one. Not be reinstalled on Windows 10. There's no way to reinstall or uninstall PowerShell 5.1 on Windows 10. Burning with Fire, that doesn't work when it's not compatible with Fire. Many things are incompatible with Fire, Bendy. Disable and re-enable PowerShell. It doesn't work. This is a different version of PowerShell. It's not the one built into Windows. It installs V2. I don't even know where it installs it to, but it's not the one Windows uses. Right. PowerShell V5 download. Built-in one. This is not a standalone. Basically going in circles at this point. V7. I already have. Aww. Do I even have internet? No, I have Edge installed. Yep. I don't want... What is the point of this? What is the point of this? They have... Hey, look, you can have the version. You can have the new version that everyone talks about, but doesn't work with older software. Oh, congratulations. Thanks, PowerShell. Just upgrade your code to the newer version. You should be using the newer version. Backwards compatibility. No, we don't want backwards compatibility. No, that's a horrible idea, says the coding community and the idealists everywhere. Holy fuck. Some coders, guys, that are just allowed to do whatever they want are just fucking absurd. They do some really stupid shit. As they can, because they're cowboy coders. Good for them. Broken. That's not going to help me at all. Full circle. Kind of the big deal here, though, is even if this doesn't work properly, which isn't actually that big of a deal, it's that my PowerShell is broken for some reason. PowerShell is used for a lot of things. And it's possible this happened because I updated Windows and it botched my install. Because my CPU has been flaky. So, yeah. weird for some reason. We'll ask and get dragged through the mud. Why not? Or a code. There you go. Fun. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, buy other tabs. Buy tabs. Okay. Fuck me. No, not really. Normally I use OCCT and it just works fine, but I decided I'd try this because I'm having issues and OCCT has not caught anything, so updating my firmware on my motherboard, by the way, seems to have made my problem worse. Whether or not something happened after I updated my firmware or it just became more flaky, I don't know. I think part of it was I didn't turn on C states where I had them on. It's just been slowly degrading over the last couple months. Slowly getting worse. I don't even have PBO on anymore. I can't. It locks up if I turn PBO on. I have PBO on. I have C states off. I have extra voltage on my CPU. And I have low light calibration turned on too. Just to keep it stable. Whether or not it's true or not doesn't remains to be seen, so. Good. Lovely. Alright, let's take a look at the tubes, guys. on late tonight. I spent 4 hours prior to stream trying to troubleshoot this issue. Oh my god. Everything transphobic in Hogwarts Legacy. By the way, you're supposed to boycott Hogwarts, if you didn't know that. Hogwarts was canceled. You guys are in the know. I'm so sick of this. He's trying to meme now. Surefire way to grow your stream, guys, is just a meme. Literally just agree with everyone else and do what's trending. Strong and brave. Powerful and brave, guys. Just do what everyone else is doing. And people will like you. I don't even know why I want to play games tonight. This is just, this has been a Debbie Downer day. Actually, I think we can play games. It's really late, though. Ugh. Waste of my day right there, trying to get that program to work. But it's partially because my version of Windows is broken, but also at the same time. Yeah, actually saw I could fix it. First key getting cut out. Don't know. Alright, I wash my coffee cup out, guys. Be right back and grab a soda too. But oh my god, guys, there were so many fucking cheaters on yesterday, and then this morning, it is ridiculous. Holy fuck. When I was offline, I ran into a fucking multiple cheater pre-made lobbies. Where there are pre-mades with people cheating in them. to pub stop. Just usually immediately roll them for like 1 round, and then they toggle on, and then just completely put you in spawn for 2 rounds. And it's obnoxious. Yeah. Like, they just become completely different players. And you can tell they're trying to, like, trying to win for the first round, and they just... Yeah, and then all of a sudden they just become insanely accurate. Adam McCree earlier today was just walking around holding down mouse 1, and his aim was just going all over the fucking screen. It was like a fucking spin bot. I thought that was like an old Counter-Strike meme at this point, but here we are. Let's see. I mean, we could. Yeah, don't care. Where is my goddamn X3D chip, guys? Oh my god. Linus? Why is Linus here? The fuck? Why am I just watching the ad? Normally fast forward through parts of the video. Christ. Okay. So I don't even want to... I'm not even...
This video, 30 days,
Christ.
a whole new kind of warfare that helped to break the bitter and bloody stalemate of trench warfare that had plagued the Western Front for years. And it was the British who pioneered the way in the introduction, development, and use of these fearsome armored fighting machines. They were first introduced during the Battle of the Somme in September 1916, much to the shock and disbelief of the German soldiers. These British main battle tanks were a series of heavy so-called land ships that all had a very similar layout, with over 2,000 of them being built before the war had ended in November 1918. There were 5 main models, with the
These are so fucking random, guys.
Mark V.
Very purposely built machines.
1918 and had been designed by Major W.G. Wilson, a British Royal Naval Air
Because of
Service
trench
engineer,
warfare?
and produced at the Metropolitan
Like,
Carriage
in no way, shape, or form would ever,
ever
exist today, right?
The Mark V tank was not a radical new design, just more of an updated version of the earlier Mark IV tank. 400 of these Mark Vs were built and consisted of 2 versions. The 6-pounder gun version, which was called the male variant, and the all-machine gun version, which was called the female variant.
Oh my god.
200 of each were produced.
Gender terms.
The crew compartment. Like all the other tanks in the series, they were incredibly hot inside, cramped and noisy with very little ventilation. The crew of 8 were forced to communicate by shouting, using hand signals and writing notes to one another. To make matters worse, the Mark V had a serious design flaw, and that was the new engine layout. which meant that there was the constant threat of carbon monoxide poisoning throughout the tank from badly vented exhaust fumes. And it wasn't unusual for crew members to collapse unconscious inside the tank.
Huh.
The driver's cabin. The one revolutionary and unique feature of this new model was that it was controlled by just one driver, using a gearbox with 4 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. This was unlike earlier models that needed 4 gearmen, 2 to control each of the tank's tracks. This previously clumsy setup had led to much confusion when driving the tank, resulting in many mistakes and accidents. The Mark V's driver had just a small slit to see out of, so if the tank was not operating in battle conditions, the tank commander would often get out and walk in front of the vehicle, signaling to the driver where to go and pointing out any potential hazards. Sat next to the driver was a gunner who operated the forward-firing machine gun. Toilets and showers, or lack of them. Despite the tank being 26 feet or 8 meters long, there was simply not the space to install any kind of onboard toilet or washing facilities. And it didn't help that the tank was already woefully overloaded with all sorts of equipment and ordnance. So despite missions often lasting for days, all that was provided for the crew were some rags and buckets for washing and other bodily functions. To empty out one of the buckets, a crew member had to open the escape hatch to throw out its contents. But in the middle of combat, these waste-filled buckets would have to stay inside for hours at a time, adding to the stench of sweat and fumes in the poorly ventilated
Well, I mean, most tanks don't have toilets in them, so yeah.
and hot interior. Dinner service. Often food like bacon and eggs could be cooked on board by being wrapped in tinfoil and placed on the top of the hot engines to slowly cook. But the ability to make the all-important cup of tea in a British tank didn't occur for another 30 years, with the introduction of the boiling vessel in the British Centurion tank. So the crew had to boil their water outside of the tank in makeshift petrol burners.
Oh no! What the
The
fuck?
engine.
What kind? They have tanks with food service built into them now? No way.
The 29-ton tank was powered by a massive 19-liter 6-cylinder inline Ricardo petrol engine. The engine produced 150 horsepower.
I mean,
which
to be fair, guys, to be fair, for British, tea is basically the same thing as drinking coffee, only tea has much less caffeine than coffee is, so you need to consume more of it to have basically the same uplift as coffee does. I think it's like half a cup of coffee. Amount of caffeine in tea. 26 milligrams. Yeah, it's like a quarter. So you have to have like 4 times as much tea to have the same amount as coffee. Amount of caffeine in coffee versus tea. Yeah, so it's like half. Most popular British tea. Winnings. About the same. So, yeah. So, if you're British and you are consuming tea, which probably they are because they're getting grouchy because they don't have their caffeine content, you need to consume 4 times as much tea to have the same thing as a cup of coffee.
is the equivalent to that of a modern-day Harley-Davidson motorcycle. This gave the Mark V a top speed of 5 miles an hour, about the same speed as that of a person walking briskly. Fuel tank. Despite holding 93 gallons or 420 liters of fuel, the tank only had a range of 45 miles. And though the fuel tank was armored, it could easily be penetrated by enemy heavy machine gun fire. As the tank was powered by petrol, it could explode when hit, setting the tank on fire, disabling it completely. So many crews were incinerated in this way that specially trained salvage crews had to be formed to retrieve their bodies out of the charred hulks. The starting handle. The tanks had to be crank-started internally using a large starting handle that had to be vigorously rotated with both hands in order to get the tank engine to start. The semaphore system. The semaphore system allowed for communication between tanks using a primitive signaling system of levers and discs on top of the tank, but this relied heavily on good visibility. Therefore, adverse weather conditions like rain or early morning fog made it next to useless. Battlefield smoke was also a problem too. The tanks also carried wicker baskets containing carrier pigeons that would have messages strapped to their legs and were released outside of the tank to fly back to base with messages. The armored exterior. The Mark V's armor had 16mm or 0.63-inch thick steel plate on the front, with 12mm or 0.47-inch on the sides, along with 8mm or 0.31-inch on both the rear and the roof. This meant that it was totally immune to all types of small arms fire, and it could also withstand heavy machine gun fire and grenade blasts on all but the rear and roof of the tank.
Next to the gas
was
can?
just normal industrial grade and therefore quite brittle, so if the plate was penetrated, it was prone to splintering. If this happened, it resulted in small red-hot shards of metal shooting around the crew compartment with devastating effects.
Shrapnel?
The crew would wear medieval-looking chainmail masks to protect their eyes, and gas masks were always close at hand. Weaponry. The male variant had a 6-pounder gun in each of the forward-facing portions of its sponsons, as well as a further 4 .303-inch machine guns scattered about the tank. One machine gun was located on each side of the sponsons, another facing backwards at the rear of the tank, and a fourth in the driver's cabin facing forward. The female variant was the same, except the 6-pounder were replaced with machine guns. 6-pounders were a short-barreled version of a British naval gun, so they didn't get stuck in the mud as they crossed the trenches or shell craters. The machine guns were the Hotchkiss M1909, which could fire as many as 10 rounds a second in short bursts. But the drawback was that the odor from the cordite propellant used in the machine gun's rounds, though smokeless, caused irritation to the eyes and lungs of the gunners inside the cramped and poorly ventilated interior of the tank. Ammunition. The 207 rounds for the 6-pounder gun was centrally stored, whereas the thousands of rounds for the machine guns were distributed about the tank next to the weapon ports for quick and easy access. The side sponsons. Turrets for tanks had yet to be fully realized, therefore sponsons were used at first. There was one located on either side of the Mark V tank. Each housed 2 weapons, one in the front of the sponson that had a very limited arc of fire and could only fire at targets in front of the tank. The other was on the side of the sponson and could only fire at targets to the side of the tank. Depending on the variant, the gun facing forward would be a 6-pounder gun on the male version or a machine gun on the female one. The side-facing gun on both variants was always a machine gun. After the war, these clumsy types of mountings were discarded as designers introduced more effective turreted designs.
Yep.
But a notable exception was the U.S. stopgap tank of World War II, the M3 Lee Grant. Observation post. An armored cabin on the roof of the tank was used for all-around observation, using a series of observation slits. There was also a peephole on both sides which the commander could also fire his 6-shot service revolver through if he needed to. These tanks were reasonably successful, though after the war they were gradually phased out of service.
No shit.
Replaced with new tanks that had gun turrets, and smaller crew numbers and proper dedicated suspension, like the Vickers Medium Mark II, that were also equipped with radios. Some Mark V's were used in the Russian Civil War that ended in 1920. The last recorded use of them was in August 1941, when the Red Army used 4 of them as dug-in fortifications during the defense of Tallinn against the German invaders.
Pretty much. Leftovers, guys. Hey, what can we do with these,
by Iron Order,
what can we do with these tanks we have? Let's just use them as turrets. Okay.
One timeline where strategy is the key element. So take command over the resources.
Good. Interesting.
Only.
Fucking hilarious. First-gen tanks. You're not really first-gen, but one of the first-gen tanks designed particularly only for trench warfare. I have used in against trench warfare, used against trench warfare, with trench warfare, whatever you want to word that. But yeah. Pretty ghastly if you were inside there. That'd be pretty horrible. Good. Let's see. Might as well, since we're here, we're just going to take a look at this. So late, guys, and my computer's having issues. I don't know.
Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed. It is
Right now, I'm oh my god, a new shirt. Hey, Steve. Oh my god, he has his name on his shirt.
For this benchmark, we have 53 GPUs.
Looks like he turned his sleeve just so you could see it.
Way too much data. So rather than talk about it, I'm just going to jump into the graphs as soon as possible. So I'm just going to assume that you already know about the Hogwarts Legacy game. Apparently, it's kind of a big deal based on the Steam pre-sales. So other than to say that it's built on
there's a lot of people playing it.
DirectX 12 along with ray tracing and all the latest upscaling technologies, I'm just going to get into the testing. Now, I've benchmarked two sections of the game. One benchmark pass, which was the focus of our testing, took part on the Hogwarts grounds, and then the second at Hogsmeade as you arrive. The CPU used is the Ryzen 7 7700X with 32GB of DDR5 6000CL30 memory, and of course the latest Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA display drivers have been used. Okay, let's get into it. Starting with the 1080p medium data, we find some really odd results.
Yikes.
Firstly, the GeForce 40 series is well down on our graph, with the RTX 4090 capped at 136 FPS. This is clearly a CPU bottleneck, which can reduce GeForce.
If I could, I'd buy an XTX, guys.
Relative to Radeon GPUs, and that's what we're seeing here. The 7900 XTX and 7900 XT both pushed past 160 FPS when using the Ryzen 7 7700X. The Radeon 6000 series also performs better than the GeForce 30 series, but again, that's not that unusual at 1080p. The 6800 XT, for example, was 13% faster than the RTX 3080. Then further down the graph, we see that the 6700 XT matched the RTX 3070 and 3070 Ti, with the 6600 XT and 5700 XT delivering just short of 100 FPS on average, making them slightly slower than the 2070 Super, but also slightly faster than the 2070. Then we see the GTX 1080 Ti alongside the RX 5700, 6600, and Intel Arc A770. So pretty disappointing results there for Intel, given that they did supply a game-ready driver to us.
There's my 2080, guys.
Beat the RTX
so it's about the same as the
3060
3060 Ti, a little bit worse.
like performance. Then for just over 60 FPS, the 1660 Super, RTX 3050 or GTX 1080, they'll do. And then falling short of 60 FPS is the GTX 1070, 1660, 1650 Super, and Radeon RX 5500 XT. I feel any GPU that can't deliver at least 30 FPS for the 1% lows here was unplayable, at least by my standards. So that includes the Radeon RX 6400, Intel Arc A380, GeForce GTX 1650, 1063GB, and 1630. Now, increasing the resolution to 1440p provides us with similar data to what was seen at 1080p. The GeForce GPUs are still capped at around 130 FPS, while the Radeon GPUs could push as high as 167 FPS. The 6950 XT, for example, that was still 10% faster than the RTX 3090 Ti, so the Radeon 6000 series is faring better than the GeForce 30 series, at least at this resolution using medium quality settings. Having said all of that though, this time the 6800 XT was just 3% faster than the RTX 3080, while the RX 6800 beat the 3070 Ti by a 6% margin. Further down, we find the 5700 XT basically neck and neck with the 2070 Super and 6650 XT, along with Intel's Arc A770. The RTX 3060 is also just there, and it's impressive to see the 5700 XT still outclassing the GeForce 30 series GPU in a new cutting-edge title. For those of you seeking a 60 FPS experience at 1440p, that should be possible with
a lot of people poo-pooed on it when it first came out because they're like, AMD sucks, and it wasn't actually that bad. That was after, I believe, the 480 series came out, 580, 480 series, which are like mid/low-end cards.
And the RTX 2060.
And people still had a bad taste in their mouth about it, but it actually performed relatively well. And Hawaii came out Fury.
So I'd just recommend lowering the resolution and/or quality settings. Now, at the 4K resolution, the CPU bottleneck is largely removed, and we see what these GPUs are really capable of. The RTX 4090.
Why would you test it with, if you know that it's going to be a CPU bottleneck in this way, why would you test it with that CPU?
We are only using the medium quality settings here. The 7900 XTX was also 9% faster than the RTX 4080, while the 4070
Also, why would a
Ti
CPU favor a
and
certain
3090 Ti
GPU?
were
That doesn't make
comparable,
sense either.
making them around 9% faster than the 6950 XT.
Unless it's intentionally doing that.
The RTX 3080 was also able to overtake the
Very weird.
6900 XT by a few frames.
Like, it should be universal across
6800 XT.
GeForce
That
and
said,
NVIDIA.
The RX 6800 was still able to just stay ahead of the 3070 and 3070 Ti, though all did dip below 60 FPS.
Like it
We
must
also
be a
saw
driver
1% lows dip below
related
30
issue.
FPS with the RX 5700 and RTX 3060. So any GPUs below
AMD GPUs tend to perform better when they are CPU bound compared to
saying.
NVIDIA. There's less overhead.
Okay, so here are the ultra quality results, but with ray tracing disabled. We'll get to the RT results soon.
Hey,
Again, under these more CPU limited test conditions, it's
separating
very clear that
rasterization
the
from
Radeon
ray
GPUs
tracing.
perform exceptionally well. The 7900 XTX beat the RTX 4090 by an 8% margin, while the 7900 XT was 6% faster than the RTX 4080. Then we see that the 6950 XT and 4070 Ti traded blows. Then for the
3080.
previous generation matchups, AMD does very well. The
2080, I'm
6950
down
XT, for
here.
example, is 7% faster than the 3090 Ti, while the 6800
Half.
XT matched the 3080 Ti, making it 4% faster than the 10GB 3080.
I don't
The
know,
Radeon
guys.
RX
The whole
6750
GPU scene just
XT
makes
did
me
well
kind of
with
want to
83
vomit in my mouth.
FPS, making it slightly faster than the RTX
Like, actually
3060
considering
Ti, and
4090,
slightly slower
and that
than
scares
the
me.
2080 Ti and 3070.
It's so fucking expensive.
Once again, the old Radeon RX 5700 XT was really impressive, averaging 63 FPS, which placed it on par with the 6600 XT and 6650 XT. The Intel Arc A770 also did quite well here, matching the GPUs just mentioned, along with the RTX 3060. Then for 60 FPS, we find the RTX 2070 and 2060 Super are just up to the task, while the 1080 Ti, RX 5700, RX 6600, A750, and RTX 2060 all fell short. Then once we get down to the GTX 1660 Ti, the game starts to become unplayable, or at the very least is unenjoyable in my opinion. And there are quite a few 4GB and 6GB graphics cards that simply weren't up to the task. Now, increasing the resolution to 1440p while still using the ultra quality preset, we find a few interesting things. Firstly, the 7900 XTX and RTX 4090 are neck and neck, while the RX 4080 overtook the 7900 XT, delivering 15% more performance. And what's really interesting to note here is the GeForce 30 series and Radeon 6000 series battle, namely the fact that the Radeon GPUs provided stronger 1% lows. The 3090 Ti, for example, was 3% faster than the 6950 XT when comparing the average frame rate, but 12%
Just one game,
slower
though. That's
when
why it's
comparing the
important to test
1%
multiple
lows.
games.
And this is less obvious with the RX 6800 and RTX 3070 Ti comparison, where performance is basically identical. There's loads more data here, but I think for 1440p ultra gaming, you're really not going to want to go below the RTX 3060 Ti and 6750 XT, so let's just move on because we do have a lot more to go over.
No fly zone, guys.
So 4K gamers
No go.
hoping to play Hogwarts Legacy.
No go. If you're getting less than, he says 60 FPS on the 1%, 30, 60, one of the two. Yeah, 60 is probably the bare minimum you want to play a game and have fun for your 1%, or even maybe for average. I don't know. It starts getting very noticeable.
That said, the 1% lows weren't quite as strong in our testing. The GeForce GPUs in general really shine at 4K, and now the 3090 Ti is 18% faster than the 6950 XT. In fact, even the RTX 3080 managed to edge out the RDNA 2 flagship. With just 51 FPS on average for the 6950 XT, there wasn't a single previous generation Radeon GPU that could break or even hit the 60 FPS barrier, and for a decent experience, you'll want at least the RX 6800. That said, there are a few issues here for
My
the
2080,
30 series,
30 FPS.
namely for models only armed with 8GB of VRAM, such as the 3070 and 3070 Ti, both of which were only able to match the 6700 XT, making them a good bit slower than the 16GB RX 6800. So in my opinion, you want an absolute minimum of 12GB of VRAM for 4K Ultra, and ideally 16GB would be the minimum. Right, so now it's time to enable ray tracing.
Still mining crypto?
And this is
Yep,
where things
still mine
become
crypto.
truly interesting.
I don't mine with
RT enabled,
GPUs
the
though.
1700 XTX
So.
was still able to take out top spot in our testing at
Yep,
1080p.
still survived,
though it was just
and things got a
3%
little bit
faster
better
than
this
4090.
last January.
That's a
but-
serious achievement, though of course we are somewhat CPU limited at this resolution. The 7900 XT also matched the 4070 Ti, but
With
did
ray
deliver better
tracing.
1% lows, making it more comparable
Pretty
with the
crazy.
RTX 4080, which was just 5% faster. Now, the GeForce 30 series did easily beat the Radeon 6000 series with ray tracing enabled. The
Of course.
3090 Ti, for example,
6000
was
series was
21%
first gen
faster
ray
than the
tracing for
6950
AMD.
XT,
3000
though
series
the
was
more
second gen
mid-range
for
previous
NVIDIA.
generation matchups were much more competitive. The 6700 XT beat the RTX 3060
Where's
Ti.
my 2080,
and even
guys?
the 3070 Ti.
Let's take a look at that ray
8
tracing
gigabytes
quality.
of VRAM just isn't enough here, even at 1080p. So that's brutal
Give
for
it to
those
me.
who invested big
Oh,
money
there
in
it is,
such
22
like the
FPS.
3070 Ti not that long ago. Now, 1440p, we see that there's actually very few GPUs that can handle ray tracing in Hogwarts Legacy, at least when using the ultra quality settings without any kind of upscaling. Although the 4090 was good for 85 FPS and the 4080 79 FPS, most GPUs struggled to hit
No
even
ASICs, I use
60
ASICs too. I
FPS,
use whatever
such
makes me
as
money.
the previous generation flagship
I am not
RTX
limited or
3090
beholden to a
Ti.
certain kind of
Again,
mining
12 gigabytes
because
of
that's a
VRAM
good
is the
way
minimum here.
to
The
go
2080
bankrupt.
Ti did
So
okay, but
I just
1%
make,
lows
just
did
like
suffer,
with
and this was also the
hardware
case for the
in my
RTX
computer,
3080.
I just buy whatever
Parts like the
works the best and gives me
3070
the best
Ti, though,
value.
were completely broken, leading to competing parts such as the RX 6800 delivering
I've learned
twice
to
the
not be very
performance.
idealistic
But
depending on
really,
what it
there is
is.
no comparison
Being
here, as the
idealistic is something
3070
that's
Ti
reserved for
wasn't
people
even
that have
remotely
money
playable
or
by
wits to
anyone's
burn,
standards,
and I have
whereas
neither.
the RX 6800
So
was playable. But not really by my standards, admittedly, but
some
it
things I'm
was technically
idealistic
playable.
about, but
Now, finally,
other
for
things
4K
I'm not,
resolution,
especially
we
when
see
there's
the
no
RTX
compromise.
4090 was good for
So
61 FPS, making it 33% faster than the 4080 and
I've gotten
65%
old, you could
faster
say.
than the 3090 Ti. So a very strong
Rondo
performance uplift
learned my
there.
lesson. Well, the
Basically,
kids
anything less than the 4080
tell you you
couldn't
can't
deliver
use
60
PowerShell
FPS, with everything
V5
else
and
dropping
you have to
below
use
40
V7,
FPS, so
and V7 is not
upscaling
backwards
will be
compatible to
required there.
V5.
Gamers will also require at least 16 gigabytes of VRAM to play
Jesus
at
Christ.
4K
Open
with
source
ray tracing
development is a
enabled.
shit show.
Now, something I noticed after our initial wave of GPU testing was some strange scaling behavior in the Hogsmeade town. For whatever reason, the game appeared extremely CPU bound here, despite rather low CPU utilization on all cores. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. It'll take more time and a lot more benchmarking to work it out, something I don't have the mental capacity for right now. I've done a ridiculous amount of GPU testing here though, so let's go over the results. And first, I want to compare the previously seen Hogwarts grounds data to this updated Hogsmeade data. Please note, given the incredible amount of testing that was involved here, I wasn't able to retest all 53 GPUs, but we do have a good range of current and previous generation models. Okay, so once again, starting with the 1080p medium data, we see that we do run into a system limitation in the Hogsmeade area at around 150 FPS on average, with 1% lows of around 130 FPS. Not a drastic difference to what we saw at the Hogwarts ground test, but we are clearly hitting a system limitation here. And we see the same limitations at 1440p, but of course more of the data is now GPU limited. Basically, we see from the 6950 XT and down that the graphics card is the primary performance limiting component. But what's really interesting here is the fact that despite imposing a system limitation sooner, the Radeon GPUs typically delivered higher frame rates in the Hogsmeade area, suggesting that this test is less GPU demanding, but more CPU demanding. Now, at 4K, there's very little difference between the two test locations, and really it's only the 7900 XTX that is performance limited in this updated Hogsmeade benchmark. But again, we are seeing a strange situation where some of the Radeon GPUs do perform better in the Hogsmeade area.
Heroin
The
addict
6650
incarcerated
XT
for
and
robbery
6750
escapes
XT, for
prison and
example,
reinvents
maxed
himself
out
as
in
a
both
doctor in the
test
slums
areas,
of
so the
Bombay.
data here is heavily GPU limited. The 6800 XT, 6950 XT, and 7900 XT
Not really
though,
something
all
I'm
delivered
super interested
higher
in right
frame
now.
rates in the Hogsmeade test.
Like
and
a
I
good
suspect
drama
the
though.
7900 XTX would
I
have
still
as
haven't
well,
watched last
if it
season of The
weren't
Walking
CPU
Dead.
limited. Increasing the visual quality preset to Ultra again sees most GPUs delivering higher frame rates in the Hogsmeade area. The 6750 XT, for example, saw a rather substantial 17% performance uplift and a 12% uplift for the 6800 XT. But then the 6950 XT performance was much the same in either test area, while the 7900 XT and XTX hit a wall at around 140 FPS. Now this is odd. At 1440p, all GPUs actually delivered higher performance in the Hogsmeade test. The 7900 XT, for example, was 20% faster, which is a massive difference. Very strange stuff indeed. Then at 4K, we see similar trend where the Radeon GPUs generally performed better in the Hogsmeade test. So let's enable ray tracing and take another look. Well, here we're well under the 140 to 150 FPS cap seen without RT enabled. The Radeon 6000 series GPUs perform much the same for both test scenes.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's a
wasn't true of
couple.
the
I don't know how many
7000
they
series,
canceled,
where
but
the
there's a couple they're
7900
planning on
XT
doing.
was 9% faster in Hogsmeade,
Oh,
and the
Well, I'm not
700
interested
XTX,
anymore.
13% faster.
I'm done with Maggie.
It's a similar story at 1440p. The Radeon 6000 series all delivered
You went
the
through
same
her
performance
butch
in both
lesbian
test
phase yet?
areas,
It's
while
still
the
going to happen at
1700
some point.
XT was 9% faster in Hogsmeade.
Maybe
and the
she's just gonna
700
fuck Negan in
XTX
the ass. I don't know
8%
which is gonna
faster.
happen first.
Then at 4K, the Radeon GPUs are all pretty much wiped out, as here the 1700 XTX was only good for just over 30 FPS. So let's move on to see how the GeForce GPUs scale between these two test areas. Now, with the GeForce GPUs, we're seeing a hard cap on performance at 130 FPS in Hogsmeade. Not radically different to the initial test, but it's interesting to see the RTX 3060 and 3070 performing better here, despite everything else hitting an FPS wall a little bit sooner. Similar trends are seen at 1440p. A number of the more lower-end GPUs
One of his
CPUs
CPUs must be bogged down.
This time the
Like, it's an
maximum
8-core
limit on
processor,
performance
right?
was much the same.
But
Then at
definitely
4K, we
seems
start
like
to
one of
see
the
some
cores is
really
maxed out
strange
and it's
scaling
dependent on that
behavior.
core.
In the original Hogwarts
Which
Grounds
isn't that hard to
testing, the
diagnose. You just have like
RTX
Task
4080
Manager
was a
open, you
bit
can see this
faster than the
happen.
4070 Ti, and the
I was actually
4090
thinking there should be
was
a
good
way
faster than the
for
4080.
something like MSI
However, when
Afterburner that
testing in
shows the
Hogsmeade,
number
we
of
don't
cores that
see
are over
that.
90%
And although the
utilization,
frame
for
rates
instance,
were
would be a good
higher
indicator.
at the lower resolutions, the data does
Or
look to be
95. I don't know what the
CPU
threshold
limited,
would be.
which is quite
95.
odd. Now, as we move on to the ultra quality testing, we see some more strange scaling behavior.
That's
The
usually when
Hogwarts
you're hitting a
Grounds
CPU
results
bottleneck
show
is when you're over
fairly
like
consistent
95%
scaling at
CPU
1080p
utilization
as
on
we
one
increase
core.
the GPU power. But Hogsmeade runs into a performance
Because
cap
it doesn't
quite
matter what the rest of the
quickly,
cores are doing,
110
because usually that
FPS.
one core is just
And we see
overloaded and
from
the game's waiting
RTX
for it.
3080 10GB to the RTX 4090 that there's really no change in performance. But as we move to 1440p, we see the high-end GeForce 30 series GPUs all top out at around 95 FPS. Yet despite that, the 4080 and 4090 were able to render 108 and 109 FPS respectively. It's very odd behavior, and it's even more confusing given that no single core was maxed out on our Ryzen 7 at 7700X, and overall CPU utilization was actually quite low, suggesting the game does need a performance patch to better optimize performance. Maxed out on our Ryzen 7 at 7700X, and overall CPU utilization was actually quite low, suggesting the game does need a performance patch to better optimize performance. More strange data can be seen at 4K for the Hogsmeade test. Again, the GeForce 30 series along with the 4070 Ti are all limited to around 55 FPS, while the 4080 was good for 72 FPS and the 4090 85 FPS. Now, with ray tracing enabled, we find more interesting results. Previously in the Hogwarts Grounds testing, the 3070 and 3080 were able to deliver playable performance at 1080p, but in the Hogsmeade area, we are faced with constant pauses. Forget about frame stutters, performance was completely broken here, and this is due to exceeding VRAM limits. It's odd though, as performance in general for products with 12GB of VRAM like the RTX 3060 and 3080 Ti was actually better. So it's as if the ray tracing demand is slightly lower in the Hogsmeade test, but the demand on the memory capacity is higher, which might actually explain some of the odd results we've seen when testing between these two locations. Now, at 1440p, we found previously that 8GB graphics cards couldn't handle the ultra quality settings with ray tracing, and in the Hogsmeade area, we also find that 10GB models like the RTX 3080 aren't sufficient either. Beyond that though, scaling is fairly similar from the 3080 Ti and up. Then finally, at 4K, we're now seeing very similar results for all GPUs in both test areas, again suggesting that memory capacity is at more of a premium in the Hogsmeade test. And it's not until we hit the 4K resolution that the Hogwarts Grounds data starts to look very similar. Now here's a look at how the Radeon and GeForce GPUs compare in the Hogsmeade test. And the results are remarkably different to what was seen previously, though it's also very clear that there's a serious system limitation here. The 1440p scaling for both the GeForce and Radeon GPUs is similar to what was seen at 1080p, and again the 1700 XTX and XT take out top spots, followed by the 6950 XT and 6800 XT, made possible by the NVIDIA driver overhead issue which hurts performance when CPU limited. Now at 4K, we're getting to the point where performance is being GPU limited, allowing the 4080 and 4090 to match the 1700 XTX, but of course, we are still quite heavily system limited here. Increasing the visual quality preset to Ultra, but using the 1080p resolution, again shows the Radeon GPUs with a strong performance advantage. Here the 1700 XTX was 27% faster than the 4090 for example, so clearly something is amiss here. The margins remain similar at 1440p, again the 1700 XTX and 1700 XT have a clear performance advantage brought about by a system limitation, likely some sort of CPU related issue. Finally, at 4K, the 4090 is able to hit the lead, nudging out the 7900 XTX, which now sits between the 4090 and 4080. Even with ray tracing enabled, the 7900 XT and 7900 XTX were faster than the 4090 at 1080p, yet the 6950 XT was slower than even the RTX 3080 Ti. It's also really interesting to note that while the 8GB RTX 3070 was crippled here, rendering just 17 FPS with 1% lows of 5 FPS, so the game was unplayable and completely broken, and the 3070 Ti would have suffered the same fate. However, the 6800 XT on the other hand was able to deliver 55 FPS with 44 FPS for the 1% lows and was surprisingly smooth and enjoyable. It's also worth noting that the RX 6800 would offer a similar experience here as it also packs a 16GB VRAM buffer, and with the help of FSR2 you could probably get up around 60 FPS, whereas no degree of DLSS is likely to help the RTX 3070, especially given that the 10GB RTX 3080 is also crippled here. But this is certainly a comparison that I'd like to look at in more detail, perhaps for an RTX 3070 versus RX 6800 revisit, which we could do in the not too distant future. Now, with ray tracing enabled, the 4090 and 4080 were able to overtake the 7900 XTX at 1440p, and here the 6950 XT was crushed by the 3080 Ti. Again, the older GeForce 30 series GPUs with less than 12GB of VRAM really do suffer. For example, the RTX 3080 saw 1% lows. There is no comparison here, as the 3070 Ti wasn't even remotely playable by anyone's standards, whereas the RX 6800 was playable. But not really by my standards admittedly, but it was technically playable. Now finally, the 4K resolution. Older GeForce 30 series GPUs with less than 12GB of VRAM really do suffer.
It's not labeled. It's not labeled in the title here, but this is different parts of the game. We had Hogwarts. I was trying to figure out what the difference here is between his earlier benchmarks and this. I believe this is Hogsmeade as it's titled in the slide, but it's not labeled in the slide in the video. But down over here, Hogwarts Legacy. I think this is a different part of the game. And here it says TA high, ultra quality, ultra ray tracing, ultra. Hogsmeade, which I believe is another part of the game.
Suffer. For example, the RTX 3080 saw 1% lows of just 4 FPS, while the 6800 XT was good for 33 FPS, so a bloodbath there for Nvidia's previous generation. Then at 4K, it's a clear win for the RTX 4090, and even the RTX 3090 was faster than the 7900 XTX. And these are certainly more like the results we'd expect to see with ray tracing enabled. Again, we're seeing that 16GB of VRAM is really the minimum here, as even the 4070 Ti struggled with frame pacing, seeing an 81% discrepancy between the 1% lows in average frame rate, whereas the 7900 XT saw less than half that margin. Now, you might think many of these results were heavily CPU limited, and had we tested with a Core i9 at 13900K, they'd look a lot different, but I don't believe that's actually the case. I did run a few tests with the 7900 XTX and RTX 4090 using the Core i9 processor and found pretty similar scaling behavior. That said, the utilization on the Core i9 part did look quite different, so that's interesting. This is in the Hogsmeade area. We saw 2 cores almost always maxed out. So despite that though, the frame rates were much the same as what we saw with the 7700X. It's clear though that the game does have some performance related issues, so it's hard to make any concrete conclusions at this point, other than to say we're hoping for some performance related patches, hopefully in the not too distant future. It's also worth noting that AMD should have an updated driver release next week, which should include official Hogwarts Legacy support, so be on the lookout for that if you own a Radeon GPU. As it stands right now though, both Nvidia and Intel already have Hogwarts Legacy ready drivers, and we use those for our testing in this video. As a side note, for those of you using a GeForce 40 series GPU,
96, because we're not splitting hairs here, 48.
Here, make sure frame generation hasn't just decided to turn itself on and not tell you. I ran into that issue. Although I never tried frame generation or even DLSS for that matter, whenever I installed a GeForce 40 series GPU, the results were unexpectedly high. And this is because frame generation had turned itself on, despite the fact that it was grayed out and even DLSS was grayed out and not turned on. So I'm not sure why it defaulted to turning that on, but in my testing it did. The fix here was to enable DLSS and then enable frame generation, then disable frame generation and DLSS. And again, although frame generation was enabled for my testing initially, the option was completely grayed out for me. It wasn't until I manually enabled it and then disabled it that I was running at the native resolution and frame rate. So be aware that that can be an issue.
Weird.
Also, for those of you facing regular stuttering,
Intentional?
there's a wide range of reasons for why that could be, but one of them could be system memory. I found that the game plays best with 32 gigabytes of RAM. It's certainly playable with
What?
16 gigabytes, but I did notice a lot more stuttering, so be aware of that.
That's insane.
Another big issue is, of course, VRAM usage. Although this is easier to address by reducing stuff like texture quality or disabling ray tracing, which is a massive VRAM hog in this title, I'm not willing to say that the GeForce RTX 4070 Ti and its 12GB VRAM buffer is a disaster just yet, as performance here could be addressed with a game patch, but at the very least, Hogwarts Legacy has highlighted why 12GB of VRAM on an $800 GPU is a bad idea, and at best will age as well as what we've seen here with the RTX 3070 and 3070 Ti. It was also interesting to see the Radeon RX 6800 XT smashing the RTX 3070 by a 31% margin at 1440p using the ultra quality preset, and then by a 63% margin at 4K. Meanwhile, with ray tracing enabled, the 6800 XT was good for 55 FPS at 1080p, while the RTX 3070 was good for just 17 FPS. And I did warn that parts like the RX 6800 and its 16GB of VRAM would age better than the RTX 3070.
This is like one title. There aren't many titles that do this, guys.
Now. And this isn't the first time, mind you, but this is very clear.
Not that that is an excuse,
of course,
but rather I would
upscaling technologies such as DLSS,
one of the
XeSS,
few
or FSR2, though those technologies
outliers
won't
is
take
not
you so
necessarily
far
the
in
case
face
across
of
the
a
board.
CPU
That just means you have to turn the
bottleneck. But perhaps
textures
this
down,
could be a
ray tracing
workaround
down,
for
one of the
GPUs
two.
lacking
Ray
VRAM,
tracing in general.
though
If
you'd
I was getting
likely
50
have to
FPS in the game, I wouldn't have
use
fucking
modes, and
ray
they
tracing
typically
on.
suck when it comes
So
to image
yeah,
quality.
just like with
Anyway, provided
with
you have enough
Cyberpunk, I turned
RAM
off ray
and
tracing
VRAM,
because
along with a
it just
decent
made things
CPU,
horrible.
and you've dialed in the appropriate level of
For a
visuals for
tiny
your
bit
GPU,
of
then the game should play
graphical
quite
fidelity.
well. And it does appear to be a very high quality game. I'm sure with some further optimization work, it will be a great game and a useful tool for benchmarking new PC hardware. And with that, I am going to get some sleep. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It was a ridiculous amount of work. Subscribe because, well, we'll be testing this game in future CPU and GPU content, I'm sure. Hopefully if it gets patched up. And yeah, we have Patreon, Floatplane. Either of those will give you access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content, Q&As, exclusive Discord server where we talk about all this testing as we're doing it with our community. And we do a live stream as well. Tim and I get together and do that. Anyway, check that out if you're interested, but if not, that's perfectly fine. And I would like to thank you for watching this video. I'm your host, Steve. See you again next time.
Yeah, this number up here, guys, doesn't tell you jack shit. Because this could be, if he has hyperthreading and SMT on, which I assure you he does, that means he's running at basically 40% CPU utilization and does not tell you which of the cores are the highest cores at peak. That's what really matters, is which cores. There isn't a metric for this in MSI Afterburner, but which cores are sitting at like plus 95% utilization, or what's your highest core utilization would really matter nowadays. Because this number, this overall CPU utilization number, means jack shit, especially when most people do not interpret this as essentially half of what the number actually is because they have SMT or hyperthreading on. So he's actually sitting at about maybe 40% utilization, and that's split among 8 cores, and one of those cores, which would be, what's 100 divided by 8, like 12.5%? Figure that out in my mind. Do I just have this number in my mind? 12.5%. That means one core could be maxed out, and it wouldn't really show up here at all. It could, possibly, but at the same time, also it wouldn't necessarily be apparent. You have to look at Task Manager or a better way of outlaying your CPU utilization. Specifically at the highest. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. $5,600X give way to the 5,800X 3D. Yeah. Oh my god. My current CPU, guys, nothing but pain currently. Pain. Why we aren't streaming right now? Pain. More pain. We'll do one more. Why not? Tonight's just a YouTube night. Sleep Pod Tower. I wanted to take a look at this. Futuristic Capsule Hotel in heart of Tokyo. Oh my god. Very luxurious. There's still a person back there. I don't know why it always changed my my closed caption font size, but it does. Uh-huh. Arcades still exist. Imagine being in a city, guys, where you can have an arcade. That's crazy. I think New York still has an arcade. Canned cake. Oh my god, I want one. $10 though. He's gonna do it. I still use a card, guys. I know Tap Pay is growing in other parts of the world. It's $6.80. Okay, it's not $10. That's still pretty expensive. Yeah. But it's canned cake. That doesn't look like cake. That looks like strawberries and whipped cream. Nom 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 nom. I'd try that. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe not multiple times, but I'd try it. Christ. It's like a bunch of cats dying in there. Nope. Nope. Those are a gimmick, guys. If you didn't know, they can set the pressure. You can set the pressure on the claws. You can change all sorts of attributes on it. So basically, you can limit the likeliness of it actually picking up anything. I'm sure most people know that nowadays, but not always. Didn't always used to be the thing.
The Chuo Line and the Ginza Subway Line.
Oh. 9 hours. What happens in 9 hours? How you name your hotels or your buildings nowadays, guys. Your business? Yeah. I should change the name of my channel to 4-0 today. What does it mean? Yeah, it's up to you guys to figure out what my name means. Oh. Don't want intermingling. I mean, if it's like a hostel, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's a hostel. Yep. One hour of shower, 7 hours of sleep, and 1 hour of getting ready. So there's actually thinking behind it. 7 hours of sleep is not enough, yeah. Dude, the days need 30 hours, guys. I think so. Just more time to sleep. There just needs to be a 30-hour day. It needs to be what it turns into. We just need to turn days into 30 hours. I don't know how, but adding an extra 6 hours on the days, I think everyone needs that. So we as a whole, as the world, should try to implement 30-hour days. I assure you, nothing will go wrong. Probiotic drink provided. Probiotics are generally yogurt. Ah, keep you regular. Uh huh. Oh, wow. Wow. What the fuck? Ooh. Soundproofed sleep pod, but it doesn't have a door. Oh, maybe the door's at the top. Ah. Extra $6 or $10. That's incredible. And sleeping face. Assuredly. Yeah. Uh-huh. Aliens, guys. That's what's happening there. Aliens and Google. Oh. Ah, to be fair, I mean, some people need noise when they're pissing, and I guess it saves them on their water bill because this is the thing they'll do. Is if some people, like you're a nervous pisser or you happen to be a chick that doesn't want other people to hear your business, you'll turn on the sink, which is also pretty horrible. Obviously for wasting water, so. Obviously aliens. Oh. Uh-oh. Stress testing, guys. Dear God. Brr. By the way, that'd be probably fine. Like 10 megabits is actually, or 5 even, is more than enough. I think you need to like have about 10 for, good video viewing. But even then, it could be sporadic. Oh yeah, street legal. They look like rentals. They had like signs further up, so people don't run them over. Oh, order in stereo. Yeah. It's a McDonald's kiosk, guys. Yeah. Lovely. For an actual sit-down restaurant, that's not bad. That's basically what you'd pay for, not even including gratuity. That's what you pay for, like fast food here in the U.S. So it's like the restaurant prices in Japan are pretty good. Hotel prices are pretty good too, which probably means they pay a lot in taxes, is my guess. Like income tax and their sales tax, or the general price of living is lower because they spend more money on taxes in general. But I don't know that for certain. Usually the way it goes. Obviously, if they're making money. So some countries, obviously, they just make less money and they have less to spend on food. So that used to be a guy doing that. Now it is. Look tiny. Hour of shower is a long time. I thought there was a bath. Ah. Makes sense. Head? Oh. We got those. Don't you worry. As it turns out, cheese balls, deep fried cheese balls, are kind of a universal thing. Weird, huh? Nom 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 nom. Oh. He uses the front of his laptop as a pad. What? I wonder if the other ones don't even have a door on them. Dead. Working on it. Broccoli chicken Caesar. Ooh, You missed the Caesar part. Gas station food. Egg? A month till I get my new X3D, guys. It launches on the 28th, but I'm not going to hold my breath to get one on launch. I kind of doubt I'm going to be able to get one on launch. Maybe. Pajamas having no pockets. Oh my god. Horrible. Fitness scan. Snoring per hour. Yeah. Whether or not you've asphyxiated in your sleep. People do that, by the way. They stop breathing when they sleep. And then it turns into sleep apnea. Yeah. But if it happens too long, it turns into sleep apnea. Basically, it's not how long you stop breathing, but rather when your blood oxygen level falls below, I think, 88% is what it is. Oxygenated blood is when you start... when things start getting bad for you. I think most people stay around 92, 91 when they sleep. Down to 88. I go down to 88. I've checked before. So I was curious whether or not I had sleep apnea at one point. And in order to do that, you have to get a oxygen sensor or apply for a sleep study. And apply. Get a sleep study done. Oh my god. Lovely. In the US, I can't get over how much food is available in your convenience stores. It depends on which convenience store you go. Quick Trip, guys, if you are privy to the Midwest, Quick Trip is where it all begins and ends, and you'll never... I like when people say, oh, I have a good gas station near me, and they talk about a 7-Eleven. Yeah, no. If you got hot dog rollers in your gas station, that's not a Quick Trip. Quick Trip is above and beyond. Like, they actually have warm food. It's almost like going to a gas station that also serves you better or exactly the same as fast food. You can get better food from a gas station than you can get from McDonald's. Mind blown. I know. And it's still not a restaurant, but you can definitely get better tasting food at Quick Trip than you can at McDonald's. Not gonna lie. Yeah. I'll leave that there. Good. Okay. Alrighty, guys. As I mentioned, we are not playing games tonight. Mainly because I'm having some issues with my computer, which I need to iron out, and I'm going to offline here, and also got started late, and it's just kind of threw a wrench and shit. I spent 4 hours even prior to streaming. I spent 4 hours trying to fix this core cycler shit, and I couldn't, and it drove me mad. I wasted a bunch of time tonight on trying to make that work, and it's not. Good. Okay. But I think we're done for tonight, guys. Tomorrow will be Overwatch 2. We'll be continuing on with things. I'm going to do some troubleshooting off stream here afterwards. I need to basically I'm going to run OCCT because obviously issues. I'm going to run OCCT in the background here and see if it's stable, because I didn't do that prior to streaming too. I basically getting my computer going tonight, guys, putting aside trying to get Core Cycler going, getting my stream to go, or getting my computer just to run today was actually part of the problem too. It wasn't just getting Core Cycler as part of it. I have to have C states turned off so it doesn't go down to idle states anymore, because then it crashes. I have to add additional voltage to my CPU to make it work. And also I have low line calibration turned on, which is supposed to be a setting you'll generally only use on overclocked CPUs. And then also I can't use PBO anymore. So, and also I downclocked my memory and my Infinity Fabric from 36 and 1800 to 32 and 1600, which is default, and it's still crashing. I had to turn off C states to get it to stop crashing. So, yeah. Alrighty, guys. I'm out here for this evening, though, guys. Tomorrow will be Overwatch 2. If you are new to the stream and you enjoyed the bullshit and you enjoyed the fun, make sure to follow button in the top right-hand corner. You stream every day from evening to late night, GMT-6, so 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time to 1 to 2 a.m. Give or take, it depends what's going on in my life, what's happening, etc., etc. My schedule has tended to slip backwards, unfortunately, but that's just where we are right now. And hopefully I won't go too far into the morning hours. But yeah, it feels weird when I don't stream a day, so here we are. But yeah, I'm out here for this evening, guys. Thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Friday night and Saturday morning. Have a good day, guys.